In my previous video, I stepped off a fantastic Jetstar flight into a warm and breezy Brisbane airport. I wasted no time and headed straight to town for an awesome brunch with a long-time friend. The city of Brisbane has changed a lot since my last visit in 2001, and one of the highlights was definitely a walk along the waterfront. It was a short overnight stay for me, and soon it was time for me to head back to the airport for my flight back to Adelaide. So join me as I embark on this return flight on QANTAS in business class. Welcome to Brisbane Airport, everyone. So today we are at the domestic terminal for QANTAS, and I'm flying back to Adelaide after a very short visit here to Brisbane. So we are flying on business class. It will be interesting to see how things have changed or not during this pandemic. This is my first time back in the business class cabin since this whole COVID-19 nonsense started. So yeah, let's go and see how things have changed. So the first stop we are going to is the lounge. Let's do this. I was initially booked to fly via Sydney, and I had planned a comfy 2.5-hour transit there to while away my time. As an aviation enthusiast, there is no better way to spend your afternoon than to fly around at 40,000 feet. However, the anticipated opening of state borders between Queensland and New South Wales didn't materialise, causing QANTAS to cancel a bunch of flights between Brisbane and Sydney, resulting in a transit time of minus 20 minutes. The call centre was helpless because that was the only flight to Sydney for the day, so there was no way for me to meet any other Adelaide flights from Sydney. So that was how I ended up on this non-stop flight between Brisbane and Adelaide. Not my first choice, but hey, we are in the middle of a global pandemic after all. Brisbane Airport currently ranks number 3 in Australia in terms of domestic flight connections after Sydney and Melbourne. As a result of this, the QANTAS Lounge precinct here is obviously a rather grand affair, housing the extremely spacious QANTAS Club and Business Class Lounge. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, QANTAS Club has been shut indefinitely, and all eligible lounge users are now directed to use the Business Class Lounge instead. This lounge is so much newer compared to what I'm used to at Adelaide Airport. The colour palette in Brisbane is a lot lighter and pleasing to the eye, unlike Adelaide, which seems to be stuck in Y2K mode, in terms of style, that is. I actually found a very quiet portion of the lounge to actually talk to you guys. Well, it's nice to be able to travel again, and with the borders open and things are kind of sort of going back to normal, there isn't really much enforcement of social distancing in the lounge, but people are generally obedient and doing it by themselves. You know, if they're lining up for food or drinks, they are doing social distancing on their own, which is good to see, and people get the idea that we are not traveling during normal times. Yeah, so I can't wait to get on board, so I'm going to wait for the boarding announcement to go into the plane, and in the meantime I shall chill some more in the lounge. There are certain portions of the lounge which are closed, like this bar. The magazine racks are all empty, but otherwise everything kind of sort of looks normal. The buffet station, you can't, there's no more buffet station. You have to wait for the staff to hand you the food. You point to what you want and they take it for you. That's about the only difference here. Well, I've enjoyed my time in Brisbane, and especially in this business lounge at Brisbane Airport Domestic Terminal. So yeah, next stop will be to the plane. Let's go. Heading out to the boarding gates, one can't help but notice the huge presence of uniformed security from the police and defense force. A sign that this so-called truce we're having with COVID-19 isn't permanent, and the heightened sensitivity to the virus is still very much present. I read somewhere that there was some plan of Qantas to board their flights from the back rows to minimize passengers walking amongst each other. Obviously, this wasn't the case here, because we boarded like normal in accordance to travel class and frequent flyer status. It was definitely nice to be greeted by name, and that particular flight attendant at the door continued to do so throughout the flight. It seems he remembered me from a previous flight. Always great to see a familiar face. By the way, Australia is one of the few countries in the world where you get to see regular movements of the Boeing 717. There are currently 20 of these flying with QantasLink, operated by National Jet Systems. Other than Australia, 717s are also operated by Delta Airlines and Hawaiian Airlines in America and Volotea in Europe. Looks like one of the victims of coronavirus cutbacks is the pre-departure beverage service, because there was none. Takeoff from runway 01 was awesome in this weather. If you enjoy videos like this, why not subscribe to my channel? Once you've done that, don't forget to hit the bell icon so you'll get notified whenever I step on board another Qantas flight in business class. Alternatively, you can also follow me on Instagram using the handle below, just so you know what sort of trips I'm taking before any videos get published on YouTube. Flight time between Brisbane and Adelaide is 2 hours 45 minutes, covering a distance of just over 1,000 miles or 1,620 kilometers. The business class recliners on this 737 is equipped with manually adjusted footrests. It's adequate for a flight of this length. Although these planes do pretty long flights between Perth and Singapore or East Coast cities to Bali, so I'm not sure how I'd feel about that.
Yes, please. The hot sauce we're serving is the beef and mustard sauce, serving some mashed potatoes, or we've got the cheese platter.
I'll have the beef.
The beef, please. So did you get from us a wine or a beer or something?
Yes, sparkling. As I'm always hungry, I'm glad a full warm meal was actually served on this flight. There was a choice between a braised beef in mushroom sauce with buttered polenta or a cheese plate. Me and a cheese plate? Come on, I need my protein and carbs. I'm yet to have a shitty business class meal on Qantas. So from the look of my face, I was obviously very, very satisfied with this meal. There is one lavatory available for business class passengers located behind the cockpit next to the forward galley. The crew was extremely apologetic because the lights weren't functioning and we had to rely on the torches of our mobile phones to conduct our business in there. It was soon time for our arrival into Adelaide Airport. An approach for runway 23 meant that we flew from the Adelaide Hills over the northeastern suburbs before passing the CBD and landing on the runway. As this flight was happening, a COVID cluster was discovered in Adelaide. A woman turned up at the hospital and was discovered to have been infected by a family member who was working at a quarantine hotel. The cluster eventually grew to include staff at a pizza place, where one of its workers was also working a second job at the said hotel. Before long, this nightmare scenario swiftly resulted in the state of South Australia going into lockdown for 6 days to keep a grip on the impending community spread, and this was one of the harshest lockdown measures taken in the world. None of us could leave our homes unless it was for essential work or to access essential services. Soon, other states also very quickly closed their borders to us, which is ironic, seeing how I made this trip in celebration of state borders opening up. As I edit this trip report, the South Australian cluster was successfully managed and stamped out. Just as all was well and it seemed like the country was back on track, a new cluster formed in the northern beaches of Sydney, and now a whole range of border restrictions have been placed on New South Wales by the rest of the country, disrupting Christmas travel plans for hundreds of thousands affected by flight cancellations and border closures. Till now, no one knows how this strain got into the community despite efforts to contact trace. Will this nightmare ever end? Let's hope 2021 will be a better year for all of us.
Thank you.
See ya. Bye.
Catch you later.
On arrival into South Australia from interstate or internationally, you will have to go through a screening process by the South Australian Police. Therefore, please go into the South Australian Government website to apply for a reference number before you travel here. From there, you'll be classified into a rejected traveller, hotel quarantine traveller, or, like me, free to go.
Please.
Hi. Back in Adelaide. These are definitely strange times to be traveling. Crossing the border with airports that look so deserted. So yeah, it's the arrival process was pretty painless, and just a quick question about where you've been, your travel history for the last week, whether have you been overseas or did you go to another state other than Queensland, because they knew that we were coming in from Brisbane, so they were asking if we've been outside of Queensland in the last for this trip. Well, anyway, it was no for a lot of my questionnaire, so I was let through. So before you come in, you do have to go into the South Australian government website to apply for a reference number, and your questionnaires will be done online, and then a reference number will be generated, and your approval to enter the state of South Australia will depend on how you answer your questions. Yep, anyway, I'm back in Adelaide now. It's nice to be able to travel beyond the state borders, which is, oh my god, it's a long time coming. I think a lot of us are so travel starved. It's not even funny, right? Yeah, so yeah, until my next video, stay safe you guys, and don't forget to wash your hands regularly, and please do socially distance yourself when you're out there. Alright, I'll see you again next time. See ya, bye.